You find a great product opportunity and you're starting selling this product on Amazon, eBay, Shopify, and other e-commerce platforms. During this period, you spend a lot of effort and money to promote your product. Then the sales begin to climb and the business seems to be going very well. But suddenly, you find a lot of people copying your products, selling the same product as yours, and seizing your product market and its profit. It's really annoying, especially if the product is designed by yourself. So in this situation, are there any good ways to protect your product from being copied? Maybe the first thing that you think of is to sign an NDA agreement with the factory, because this is the only solution that you can find online. And most e-commerce gurus or sourcing experts will also advise you to do this. However, is the NDA agreement really effective? And except for signing an NDA agreement, are there any more effective ways to prevent people from copying your products? Yeah, that's what I'm going to share with you in today's video, and it's sure to blow your mind. Just keep watching. Hi, I'm Jing, the founder of JingSourcing.com, a leading China sourcing company since 2015. And I will share with you all my knowledge about sourcing, manufacturing, and importing all in my videos. So subscribe now, then you won't miss the next coming video. And today we are going to talk about 5 most effective and practical ways to prevent other people from copying your products. Now let's dive in. The first method is to sign an NDA or NNN with the factory, as I mentioned earlier. But what is NDA and what is NNN? NDA stands for Non-Disclosure Agreement. It's a promise with your factory that they won't tell anybody outside their organization about your product idea. The NNN stands for Non-Disclosure, Non-Compete, and Non-Circumvention. The biggest difference between the NDA and NNN is that NDA only requires the factory not to disclose the product information to people outside the factory, while NNN not only requires the factories not to tell people outside and also require the factories themselves not to use the product information to create their own product and to compete with you. NNN sounds perfect, taking into account with all kinds of aspects. However, in fact, in our daily experience, whether signing an NNN or NDA, it's just a written promise for the factory, which cannot effectively prevent others from copying your products. You can just think of that. Even if the factory really told others about your product information and let them copy your products, or the factory really used your information to create their own products, how can you prove it? Actually, you can hardly get substantial evidence, and it's very difficult for you to prove. And in real life, it's very hard for you to sue the factory because it's a cross-border lawsuit. English documents need to be translated and litigation documents need to be certified by the consulate. Otherwise, the court doesn't recognize the validation of the litigation document. In such a case, you also need to find a Chinese lawyer to sue in China, but I'm not sure if they will take such a case. Because most e-commerce sellers usually have small orders, only a few $1,000s or tens of $1,000s. And the budget they are willing to pay for legal fees is not very high. In the face of such great work pressure, it's very hard to say that whether Chinese lawyers are willing to accept cases with relatively low lawyer fees. In addition, most e-commerce sellers tend to give up lawsuits because they're time-costing, labor-consuming, and not cost-effective. So these two agreements cannot completely prevent a supplier or factories from copying your products. Of course, you don't have to worry too much. The purpose of the agreement with the factory is to have a written commitment. When drawing up the agreement, you can set your liquidated damage a little bit higher. And in this case, if the factory is willing to sign the agreement, the possibility of copying your products is very low. So signing an agreement can also help you filter out some bad suppliers. Before thinking about what methods can stop factories from copying your products, I think the most important thing is to analyze why suppliers and factories will copy your products. You will definitely think that the idea of your product is very good, and if the factory copies you, it can have more customers and can make more money. But in fact, there are more than enough good products in the market. Whether a product sells well or not, the product idea only accounts for a very small part. You have better understanding of e-commerce and a stronger online marketing skills, and these are things that factories don't have. Thus, most factories will not copy your products just for the reason that they think your product idea is good. So when will suppliers and factories copy your product? It must be when they see your product sells successfully and they will copy it. And you must know that no one will copy the product without good sales. Because usually, copying products requires investment in mode. And if the sales are not good and few people buy it, they will lose money. In addition, when your product sells well, not only can your original factory will copy you, but more likely, your competitors or other factories will invest in more to copy your product. So in this section, my summary is that signing an NDA or NNN agreement with a factory or supplier is just a method of screening a trustworthy supplier. But of course, signing agreement is much better than nothing. The second and also the most effective method is to register a patent. And if someone else has copied your product, you can file a complaint with the platform to remove his product listing. You can as well ask him to pay you and then authorize him to sell your product. So what type of patent are there? The most common one are design patent and utility patent. Design patent protects the decorative appearance of an item, such as its shape, structure, surface decoration. We can look at this design patent. The front part is mainly some basic data of the patent, such as patent owner information, patent number, patent application time, patent search scope, etc. The most important thing is the following claim, description, and drawing. The claim describes which part of this item will be protected. Usually, the solid line in the drawing indicates the scope of protection. Utility patents protect functional aspects of an item, that is, how the item works and is used. This is a utility patent. The front part is similar to design patent, and the following abstract and claim describe the invention and the protected part. Now you probably know what are these patents, and then the next step, let's look at how to apply them. Patent application is relatively complicated because it involves a lot of professional jargons and legal knowledges. So it's best to find a professional attorneys or agents to help you. And you can find them in your own country or the country that you want to apply for a patent. In fact, any agency can help you apply for a patent in any country. So it's more recommended to find a local one directly because the communication will be much convenient. Then how much does a patent application cost? Usually, the cost of applying for a utility patent in European countries and America is about $3,000 to $40,000, while the cost of a design patent is about $2,500 to $10,000. The cost will vary depending on the size of your product, whether you hire a professional attorney or others. But the patent application fee in China is very cheap, only a few hundreds of dollars. Therefore, we highly recommend you to apply for a patent in both the main sales country and also China, because patents are country specific. For example, if you only apply for a patent in the US, your competitor can still legally sell outside of the US. However, if they apply for the patent in Europe, instead, you cannot sell the product legally there. Since the Chinese patent application is very cheap, you can apply for the Chinese patent at the same time. This also prevents Chinese suppliers from selling your products in China. Because Chinese suppliers mainly post their products on Alibaba to reach more foreign buyers. And if you have the product patent, you can make a complaint with Alibaba and ask them to help you remove all those copycats. Of course, if you have enough budget, you can also apply for a global patent, which is the most effective way to prevent others from copying your products. But the cost is relatively high, more than $10,000. Well, you can find a professional agency to consult more about this. Finally, we need to confirm a key time point. That is, when is it more probably to apply for a patent? Is it before the product launch or after the product launch? Our suggestion is to apply as soon as possible after you determine the final design of your product. And be sure to get the acceptance notice from the National Patent and Trademark Office before the product launch. Because one of the principles for determining whether a patent can be passed is novelty. If someone else knows your product and applies for a patent in advance, it will be difficult for you to get the patent successfully. Next, registering a trademark is also a good way to prevent others from copying your products. If you don't want to lose in business competition, the most important thing is to create your own barrier to make your company or your products more competitive in the market. However, technical barriers are too difficult for most e-commerce sellers like you. So the most practical way is to create and run a good brand and make it become a barrier. Of course, first of all, you have to make sure that you want to do a long-term business. The most direct advantage of branding is to reduce the cost of your customer to remember you, especially when you have a good product quality or bring a lot of value to them. Then every time they want to buy some related products, they will definitely remember your brand first. Take our company as an example. Before I started Jing Sourcing, there were hundreds of or even thousands of small sourcing companies in China, but no one managed their own brand. Not even a little brand awareness on the internet. And I realized that the best strategy to survive and thrive in this niche was to create a good brand and run it well. Usually, when a potential client looks for a sourcing company online, he will look at the website, social media, and customers' reviews, etc. Then he will find Jing Sourcing is the most trustworthy because he cannot find any other sourcing company's information on social media. It also happens all the time that some customers find us to buy some products, but then he gave up the project for various reasons. Then after 6 months or even a year later, they come back to us for another project because they remember us instead of other sourcing companies, and that's the value of branding. Okay, let's get back to the most important part in this section. What are the best steps to register a trademark or a brand? The first step is to think of several alternative brand names and the country where you want to register a trademark. The second step is to research if your brand names is similar to any other brand names in that country. You can do it on your own in the database of the National Patent and Trademark Office, or you can hire an agent to help you. If the search result shows that there's no repetition, then you can proceed to the next step. Otherwise, you'd better to come up with another different brand name. The third step is to design a logo after you determine the brand name. You can find a designer on Fiverr or find a website on Google that can automatically generate a logo. The fourth step is to submit a trademark application with the help with the agent and wait for its completion. And if someone opposes your trademark, you need to ask your agent to find an attorney to reply. For example, if an enterprise claims that it will confuse consumers due to the similarity to its own trademark, then you will face legal action. At this time, you need to ask your agent to help you find an attorney, and the cost will be very high, at least thousands of dollars. But if you can do a good trademark search, such cases rarely happen. So be sure to pay attention to the trademark search. In addition, after thinking about the brand name, you also need to check whether the .com domain is registered. Because .com is the most important domain and it looks very official. So if it's not available, then maybe you have to change the brand name. There are many websites where you can check and register domain names, such as GoDaddy. But why should we register a domain first? Let me tell you a true story. One of my customers, he registered a trademark first, but when he went to register the domain, he found that domain is not available. Actually, there are many people on the internet now doing this kind of domain registration business. Their software can automatically detect which trademarks has been successfully registered, but the domain are not. Then they will directly register the domain. It is not difficult for them since all this information are public online after the trademark registration is completed. If you want this domain, then you can only buy from them. Originally, it will only cost a few dollars for registration, but if you buy from them, it will cost you at least a few hundreds of dollars. So here's my reminder again. You must register the domain before applying for a trademark. The fourth method is to appropriately reduce the profit of your product. This is a quote from the economist T.J. Downing and also quoted by Karl Marx in his Das Kapital. And it fits perfectly with what I want to talk about in this section. That is to say, with different profit margins, people's interest in the business is not the same. When the profit margin is not so high, everyone is not so fond of it. This prompts you to control your profit margin and let your competitors think that this business is very ordinary. Since there are other products with high profit margins, why do they need to make products with such low profit margin like yours? Reducing profit margin is a good idea, but don't reduce it too much, or it will wipe out your interest and enthusiasm for business, and also may cause losses. It's better to control to a reasonable range, but how much percentage profit it could be. In fact, all products will eventually have an average profit level in the market, and you can take it as a reference to set the retail price of your product. According to Jungle Scout's article on top Amazon product category, for most Amazon sellers, the average profit margin is between 17% to 26%, depending on the product category. After figuring out how much to reduce the profit margin of the product, someone may ask, should we control the profit margin from the beginning or just control it after others copy your products? My advice is to control the profit margin from the very beginning of a new product, because when other people find your product selling well, they will do the market research, supply research, and calculate the total cost. Then they will eventually find the profit margin of this product is not so high, and most of them don't want to copy your products since it's not profitable and also very hard to compete with you. The fifth method is to choose a product that is hard for others to find. And when you are thinking about how to prevent others from copying your products, you can also think about it in a different way. When others copy your product, it means that they can find a supplier. So if they are not able to find a supplier, they can do nothing even if they want to copy. Here, I strongly recommend you to watch my last video about how to source hard to find products. And in that video, I spent a lot of time to explain why many products are difficult to find suppliers in China. And you can find at least 3 strategies from that video to make it difficult for others to copy your products, such as finding some products which are not mainly made in China, finding a niche product and investing in private mode to develop a new product design, or making a product with raw material which is less commonly used and hard to source. I believe after watching that video, you will see how effective those 3 methods are. Thank you for watching this video. Do you think the method I talked today are useful? And if you like this video, feel that you have gained a lot of valuable content, please give me a like, share, and also subscribe my channel. And if you have better method, just let me know in the comment. If some methods are inappropriate or doesn't work at all, you can also tell me in the comment. And I will see you in the next video.